The Manchester Derby very rarely disappoints, and we normally expect Man City are going to turn up and do a number on Man United. In my score predictions for the game, I thought this was going to be one of those games that was going to be end-to-end, and one of those derby matches where the form book goes out the window, and it is really a 6-point blood battle to the death, because Man City are in a title race like we have not seen in recent history, recent memory, and Man United are still trying to fight against the rest of the table to get themselves as high up it as they can, with all the critics, all the pressure, all the eyeballs on them. Erik Ten Hag came into this game and had a bit of a game plan. They almost snatched this. We'll talk about how they done that in the video today, as well as really what we've seen from Pep City evolve through the game, become champions-elect, and really ultimately get the result. But what are the big takeaways? Do Man United have anything positive to take out of this game? And really for City, you really do feel this was one of those wins on the way to a title march. At any point in the video today, if you do laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel. We are pushing for 10,000 subscribers. So if you like content like this, please do hit the subscribe button for more. Hit the like button and get into the comment section and let me know what your big takeaway was from the Manchester Derby, good, bad and indifferent. And yeah, let's just get stuck straight into it. Now, from the beginning of this game, I had a lot of attention on Mainu, because everyone's telling me he's going to get into the England team, he's world class and all the rest of it. So I had a lot of attention on him playing next to Casemiro. But probably the biggest surprise of this game was seeing that McSauce was starting Scott McTominay rather than Anthony. A lot of people had expected Man United were going to go 4-3-3. But straight away, this catches the attention and you're thinking, okay, what is the game plan here for Man United? And this is basically the way they were set up from open play for the most part. Regular viewers of the channel maybe recognise this formation and have seen it quite a number of times, as well as European football aficionados. But this is classic Red Bull football here. We've got a nice back four of one guy who might be a bit of a winger, but a bit of a playmaker, and another guy who probably isn't going to do that very much. And in the box midfield, we've got two defensive mids, as well as two attacking mids who are quite physical and are both very happy to get into the box and overload and overlap the strikers in that area. Then that leaves the forwards, okay? So we had Rashford and wee guy Garnacho, and normally you see the Leipzig shape lined up a 4-2-2-2-2. But the way this shape is meant to work is you've got a guy like wee guy here, Garnacho, doing the Timo Werner role. Does he want to be on the left? Does he want to be on the right? What space of the pitch does he want to be on? And then when these guys win the ball, find him. Find him because he's in the space. Play the space in front of him and let him go on and do it. And then Rashford, the centre forward, the target man of the whole operation here, plays centrally, recognises where he is and just makes sure to play off accordingly. And then when Man City had possession of the ball and they were really, building their web of tiki-taka passes and overloading centre-backs into different areas, we see them then drop in. The 4-4-2 or the 4-2-2-2 gets a bit deeper, but the way it collapses in on itself, we get Casemiro and Maino in here, Bruno and McSauce stay in their positions, but wee guy comes back into the wing position, and the longer Man City possession goes on, Rashford then eventually becomes a wide, forward midfielder, defensive kind of player, and ends up being this 4-2-4 type of shape when they're out of possession. Now, this is a fantastic tactic to try against Manchester City, because if you can defend the middle ground and you can really make it difficult for them to find the target man in the middle of the pitch, or extra difficult for players like De Bruyne or Bernardo or even Foden to pick up pockets of space to hurt you, then you're going to limit their opportunities. And equally, if you know that, listen, we're only looking for him, or they didn't really look for Rashford in space that often, to be honest with you. Even when they've looked for Rashford, the ball goes up to Bruno, and it's Bruno that brings it down for Rashford running onto. And again, that's a feature of this, when you've got these guys out in the wide area in a defensive shape, that if you can play it big to McSauce or to Bruno, they're then looking to play on an overlapping and attacking player to try and catch off the offside trap run into space. And that's really where the goal comes from. Ball goes long, Bruno's able to bring it down, and Rashford scores a goal that really, the only version of Marcus Rashford that should be able to score that goal is in a computer game, to be quite honest with you. But what a goal. Take no credit away from him. But really, since then, that was probably the worst thing that could have happened to Man United. From there, Garnacho's tried both sides of the pitch. Rashford is feeling good about himself, and honestly, in this shape, and especially with the press he was getting after his really pathetic pressing that he's been doing recently, you would have thought you'd have got a little bit more out of him. But Man City really just from there started to build the web and put more pressure on Man U. And Man U kind of knew that we've got this shape, we're expecting Man City to have the ball, and it's okay if they've got it, because we'll just collapse this shape, we'll go back in and defend and look to try and counter-attack. It wasn't total Red Bull football, because with McSauce and Casemiro, they kind of allowed Bruno to maybe run around and press a little bit more when it was called for. And Mainu got a little bit more freedom to not be on his side of the pitch patrolling, but Casemiro would stay very central, and Manu had some good rhythm to go around and maybe try and attack Foden, Bernardo, go on this side and try and help any overloads that may have been coming from the likes of Ake or Stones coming into these areas. So Manu did really impressed. He didn't really put a foot wrong. A lot of his decision making was on point. Technically, didn't really faux pas, didn't really make any fumbles on any balls or anything like that. So I thought he was pretty good, but the whole team really just shrunk into the shape and just then thought, we'll get another chance like Rashford. The Man City performance, we can talk about that kind of all day. It was quite typical Man City in the sense of how good Rodri was, the importance of De Bruyne, how effective that Bernardo was in progressing the ball. But Phil Foden in this game is going to get a lot of the plaudits. But this game for me, for Phil Foden, if you remember when Phil Foden was starting to break into the Man City team, the midfield was Fernandinho, it was De Bruyne, it was David Silva. He was not getting into that team. The only way Foden was getting minutes was ahead of the likes of Sterling or Mahrez or Jesus or whatever in one of these wide forward roles. And predominantly towards the back end of Foden's bench career, it was definitely either him or Mahrez that had some strong rotation on the go. Obviously, Mahrez is long gone. But this game here, we've seen the Mahrez impact of Foden, we've seen a Mahrez impact in this game from Phil Foden is probably the better way of saying it. Obviously, for his first goal, classic Mahrez, play out wide, come inside, ping it with the left and put it in the top corner. And he was just at it all game. He was really the difference. Haaland had one of the sitters of the history of football, I think, especially because it was him. He gets his goal in the end, he'll feel redeemed ever so what. But this was a huge coming-of-age game for Foden because playing alongside Bernardo, De Bruyne, Rodri, Foden really needs to make sure that Pep Guardiola believes that he will still be a part of the best team here. Doku didn't really impress too much. And Alvarez coming on in his place, I think really told you that they weren't getting any of that utility out of Doku that you want on this side, which is that blistering, direct into the box pace. I think Delo did a pretty good job of managing his load on this side of the pitch and really always showed Doku back into the middle. And Alvarez, I think, made a little bit more of the opportunities in this game because at one each, Alvarez coming on, again, Man United retreated more and more, and it just felt like Man City were getting more and more bodies forward, and it was only going to be a matter of time before they turned the tide. Antony and Kambala come on before Man City go 2-1 up, and this is hopefully, from a Man United perspective, your dice roll here, where you're just going wee guy on one side, Antony on the other, absolute pace, and you just cross your fingers and toes that somebody like McSauce or Bruno can be in support, and maybe they can get themselves back in front in this one. But honestly, there's a reason this guy doesn't start very often, and there's a reason that Man United are not high on the table with, this is Red Bull football. This is Ralph Rangnick's Bible that Man United are playing from in this game. That's what's so funny about this, because you're going to hear Ten Hag had a good tactical masterclass in the first half, and he did well tactically in different stages of the game. But this is unadulterated Ralph Rangnick Red Bull football at its finest. But by bringing Anthony in here, who you're not going to get... Rashford's okay at cutting off passing lanes, doing that kind of stuff without being a pressing player. But Anthony's just a bit of a man down for my money. Alvarez gets the assist. Foden scores the goal. It's 2-1 City. And then this, for me, was probably one of the funniest parts of the match. Not that it was funny parts of the match, but Manu comes off and wee guy comes off. Now, Amrabat, if you're not a Man United fan, even if you are a Man United fan, you'll remember when Man United signed Amrabat, it was, he's the missing piece to the Ten Hag tactical masterclass puzzle. Once we get Amrabat into the midfield, everything will be fine. And seeing him coming on, fluffing his lines so bad for the final goal, I just thought it really does sum up this team. Ten Hag has come into this match thinking, let's try and do something a bit different. Let's use a established set of tactics like Red Bull football and try and catch Man City out, because every time Man City play a Red Bull team, they really struggle, don't they? Hold on, no they don't. And then throughout the game, nothing that Man United done really had an opportunity of getting them back into the game. It was like they played their best hand, they played their best cards in the first 10 or 15 minutes, and then they really had no idea. Now, the strength and depth of Man United's bench is definitely a handicap for them when they're bringing on the likes of Kwambala, Forson, and even looking at the guys that stayed on the bench, Amad Diallo, Christian Eriksen's fine. He's not got the energy to influence this game, you would imagine. It ended up being a rather comfortable victory. When that third goal goes in for City, it feels like an easier day at the office. But for really 80 minutes of this game, when it was one each, for as long as Man City aren't winning it, Man United did give themselves a puncher's chance of staying all the way in this game to the very end to maybe snatch something. And maybe that's just where they're at the moment. But I thought with a game like this, with the pressure that they've been on, guys like Rashford, Garnacho, I thought they would have given more. I thought they would have tried more. Because sitting in 6th at the moment, totally disconnected from the top 5. Champions League football doesn't look attainable. And for Man United, that's not going to last as cutting the mustard or being anywhere near acceptable for very much longer now that they've had Ineos come in and obviously, the Ratcliffe stuff and blah, 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 all the rest of it. So if this is the best that Ten Hag has got, I think he is flat out of ideas tactically with this Man United team. And yeah, it was a really interesting watch to say the least. I think with the sort of performances that we see in this game from the likes of Stones, Rodri, De Bruyne, Haaland, like this Man City team, I said that a few weeks ago, but it feels like they're very close to that invincibility form that they've went on in recent years where they go on, win every game and ultimately claim the title. Because whoever wins the title this year is going to need to be in that form. When all things are equal, Man City are probably a point behind Liverpool and only a point ahead of Arsenal. So it is really going to be whoever drops points. It's probably going to be like sudden death now, the title race. Drop points and you're out of it. You're going to need to win every single game. So this was a huge one for Man City, going a goal behind and having to fight all the way to the 80th minute to get your noses in front and then staying calm, staying composed, getting the third, putting the game to bed, and it looks like job done for this one. I hope you've enjoyed this video, guys. I really enjoyed watching the Manchester Derby. I hope you did as well. If you're a Manchester United fan, I'm sorry. And I'm looking forward to catching the comment section on this one, guys. On screen now is some other stuff that I've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. But I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.